A lot of people seem to think that when it comes to warming a horse up on the ground, what they need to do is lunge them. And what a lot of people seem to think lunging is chasing their horse around in a circle for 20 minutes until that horse is no longer trotting out real fast or breaking into a lope or kicking or bucking, just acting silly. But the thing is when you warm up horses, you need to be warming them up mentally, not just physically as well. And chasing that horse around in a circle for 15, 20 minutes is not mentally warming that horse up. When you're lunging a horse, they should be engaged with you mentally, and it is a mental warm up too. When you chase them around in circles, all it does is mentally bind a horse up. Perfect example of that would be Phil or Reba here. Reba, she's a really hot horse, and I would say most people with Reba would, before they get on her, because she is a little antsy when she gets on, she's pretty forward, she wants to trot and lope a lot, but a lot of people, when they get on her, they'd probably just chase her around in a circle until she's lathered up in a sweat and felt like she was tired out enough that she wasn't going to give them any trouble. But the thing is here, if you're not mentally warming your horse up, you're still going to have trouble with your horse. You need to get them mentally engaged and mentally warmed up as well. And Reba, if you were to chase her around, it would only make it, when you got on her, a lot worse. If I were to come out here and just lunge her in a circle at a fast trot and a lope until she was lathered up in a sweat, she would be so mentally bound up by the time I got on her that it would be a lot harder for me to get control of her, because she is mentally tight, which makes her physically tight. She may be physically tired now and not wanting to trot off and, take and lope and be a lot really forward with me, but she's going to be physically bound up in a way that she's stiff and not very responsive. And so when you go to lunge a horse and warm them up, you shouldn't really need to chase that horse around. For Reba here, my warm-ups, my warm-ups for her, this is the first time I've worked with her since being 8 months pregnant. So it's been a couple of months since I've really touched her. But my warm-ups for her are really calm and really just go with the flow of, we can do it at a walk or a slow trot or something like that. We don't have to get ourselves worked up and bound up, because if I were to get her trotting and loping and chasing her in a circle, she's going to get mentally bound up. And what I want to do is I want to get this horse not just physically ready for my ride and warmed up, but I want her mentally ready too. And since she's a hotter horse, I don't want to get her mentally bound up. Hot horses tend to get mentally bound a lot easier. They're a lot, seems like it doesn't take long to physically warm them up, but when they get mentally bound up, that physical warm up is pretty much rendered useless during your ride. Ooh. And so my warm up with her is just going to consist of stuff like this. Back. Hey, back. Back. See here, I'm not really getting too hard with her. I just want her to, mentally pay attention to what I'm asking her to do. And I want her to do it calm. And I want her to relax her neck here. Reba has a tendency, you can always tell when Reba starts to get that mental bind when her neck goes straight up in the air. That's her tendency. She tends to hold all of her stress in her neck. Oop. And so doing soft and subtle things like this is really how I would warm this horse up to go anywhere. And a lot of people would think that a hot horse like this, what you need to do is run them around in circles. And you really don't have to whoop. Okay, whoop. And so now here that we're kind of showing you what I'm meaning, I'm going to get a little bit more picky. When I'm lunging a horse, I'm not just going to let them turn and face me and automatically try to go the other way and anticipate. Reba tends to anticipate things. I want to slow her down and get her to where she's engaging with me and paying attention with me. So when I want her to whoa, I want her to stop teed off. And when I want her to back, before I ask her to turn, You can see here I'm wanting her to back in a straight line, so I'm kind of pushing on her shoulders. There we go. After she backs in that straight line, switch hands, give me those shoulders, and then walk out. And I want my horses to be able to do all of this from a walk, trot, and canter, just as calm as she's doing it now at a walk. Ooh. See, she's coming to face up here. She's anticipating, so I'm going to push on her shoulders. Push on her shoulders. I want you to tee off. Okay. And she knows all of this. We just haven't done it in a while, so we're kind of having a little bit of a refresher. And I'm positioning my body in a way that's kind of neutral now. I don't want her to step forward. I don't want her to step back. I just want her to stop and not anticipate. Wait for me to ask. I want her to back in a straight line. When I switch my hands, that's my cue. I want her to change directions. Give those shoulders. Stay out of my space. Go out. And just remain calm. She's got her head down. She sniffed the ground a couple of times. She's licking and chewing. I don't want her really, getting worked up about this. I just want her to know that it's, ooh, just like that. I want her to stop teed off to me, just like that. I don't want her to anticipate what I'm going to ask her to do next. I want her to wait for me to ask her what I'm going to do next. And since she stopped teed off there really nice, I'm just going to keep her going in the same direction. I don't want her to anticipate things too much. I want her to understand that every time I ask her to stop, I'm not going to ask her to change directions. I just want her to stop. And when you ask your horses to stop, you shouldn't have to pull on that lead and jerk on that horse. You should just be able to go whoop, whoop. And right there, that was blowing through a stop for Reba. For me, that's just as bad as a horse running and pulling on the lead. And now I'm going to ask her to back. I don't want her to anticipate, so I'm going to correct her. I want her to give those shoulders out. Ooh. There we go. I want her to back. Keep teed off to me. I'm switching hands now. That's my cue that I want her to change directions. Give those shoulders like that. Move out of my space and continue on. And when I'm doing these things with my horse and being particular about how they turn, this is stuff that's going to transfer under saddle when I start working on stuff that she needs to engage her hind end, and control of the body is really important to have of your horse on the ground. I want to be able to, when I lunge my horses, you can see here I could step towards her hip, kind of pull that head in, just tip it in just by picking up that rope, and get her to cross over on that hind end. There we go. We got control of the hip. From here, I could put pressure on her shoulders, keep her going straight, or put pressure on her shoulders, get her to cross over, and have full control of this horse. Even way out on the end of the line, I could put pressure on her hip here, and you could see her crossing her hind feet over. I could put pressure on her shoulders here, and she's going to go straight. Or if I tip that nose in with that lead, she's going to cross over. Even way out on the end of this line, and I could do it all at a walk, and a trot, and a canter, and ask that horse and have control of that horse. This right here, for this mare, being a hot mare who gets mentally bound up really easy, this is the best warm-up I can do for this horse before my ride. It's not to chase her around in circles and get her physically exhausted so she doesn't want to pull any goofy stuff. See right there, all I had to do was step to the side. No, she's anticipating, so we're going to, hey. She knows her correction here. There we go. Ooh. But when I ask that horse to stop or change direction, I shouldn't have to step way out and get exaggerated with my body and do this. You could see there when I asked her to stop, hey. Ooh. When I asked her to stop, all I did was do this. And see me changing my body right there. She's like, you're asking me to do something. And she's getting confused because I'm trying to show you guys an example. And then when I want her to change directions, all that I'm going to have to do to ask her to change directions, I don't have to get way out in front of her All I have to do is this, switch hands and point which direction I want her to go, and she's going to go off that direction. I mean, you shouldn't have to be super loud and exaggerated to have your horse's attention. All it takes to get him to stop is stepping out. She's anticipating here. Oop. So we're going to correct it and make her stop and stand still. And since she's wanting to turn back that way, we're just going to keep going forward. She understands that the hand that is connected to the lead to her is the direction that she needs to go. If I weren't even to stop her here and I were to just do this, look at that. I didn't even really have to move my body much. She's paying attention to me. All I have to do to get this horse to change directions is switch the lead hand. Switch lead hand. Hey. There we go. That side's a little rusty apparently. That's okay. But you shouldn't have to be super exaggerated with your horses. You know, in order to get your horse to turn, you don't have to turn. You know, we got a pretty decent turn out of her there. But you don't have to, you know, get your horses to the point to where you have control of them. And all you need to do to get them to change directions is go like that. And you still get a nice turn out of that horse. And you can see there right now, her body language is starting to put her head back down now. But that one turn where I got exaggerated out in front of her, get those shoulders out. There we go. You could see that she's already kind of putting her head up and like, what are you doing? Just from me getting so exaggerated with my body. Staying calm and staying, you know, just keeping this horse mentally calm. Push on those shoulders, get them out. There we go. And that's what I'm looking for in a horse when I'm lunging them. Whether it's at a walk, trot, lope, whatever. I want that horse, you know, paying attention to me. So when I do this, I don't have to get out in front of that horse and force them to turn. That horse is in tune with me and they're turning on their own. And you can see here, she's relaxed. She's paying attention to me. She's getting mentally warmed up. Whoop. Now we're going to ask her to whoop. Keep those shoulders out. Since she's anticipating, we're going to go out straight. And everything that I'm doing with my body here with this horse is so little. I'm not being exaggerated or anything like that. When I ask him to stop, I just step over, kind of put pressure on that shoulder, and she stops. Good girl. Let her stop and reward her. Ask her to back. Be prepared that she's going to turn in because she's anticipating. Switch hands. Give those shoulders. Get out of my space. And that's all it takes. You don't have to get, you know, it takes a lot working with horses and being black and white with them. She's trying to anticipate a little too much here. So we're going to make sure that we get her teed off and standing still and just letting her stand still. There she goes, giving her. There we go. Ooh. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. And then we're going to go off straight this way so we, you know, make sure that we don't get them anticipating too much. But it takes a lot of being black and white with your horses. And give me that hip. There's that hip crossing over. That's what I'm looking for. Give me those shoulders. Cross over. There we go. Give me the hip. Cross over. I should be able to lead my horse around the pen from behind here. I'm going to turn her towards the camera by doing this. Turn her away from the camera, pushing her hip. We're going to go towards the woods. We're going to turn towards the camera. You should be able to lead your horse just with your body, even out behind him on the end of a rope. And it takes a lot of being black and white with your horses. You know, if they don't listen, if you go, hey, I want you to back up, and that horse doesn't back up, you go, I want you to back up. But establishing that clear communication with your horses by being black and white like that gets you to the point where you can go, hey, I want you to back up. And that horse is going to back up, and you can back him up out to the end of that line. And you're going to be able to control that horse from the end of the line. A lot of people think that it's impressive. A lot of people think that it's impressive, you know, when I show them that, hey, I can get Reba to give her shoulders, pivot on that hind end so nice, or I could get her to move that hind end and cross over, and without ever using the halter and the lead to do those things. It's just my body and how I approach her. But people really get impressed when you could back a horse out on the end of the line and you could say, give me your shoulders. Give me your shoulders. All right, give me your hind end. And you could do the same things and have control of that horse's body, saying, give me that hind end. Okay, there we go. And it's really impressive when you could do it out on the end of the 10-foot, 12-foot line without having to pop them, without having to have a flag, without having to have a whip. You could do all of these things and get your horse there by making sure that your horse understands clear communication. And right now, just doing that right there, what I just did with Reba, is my general warm-up with this horse. If I need to warm her up for something, if I'm going to a branding or something like that, and I know I need to warm this horse up a little bit before going into, you know, a roping or a branding or something like that. And then if I do it on the ground because I haven't ridden her in a while, or for some reason I prefer doing it on the ground that day, that's what my warm-up's going to look like with this horse. And then I'm going to get on her back, and then I'm going to ask her to trot out and do those things and warm up more so physically. But for me, when it comes to warming a horse up, warming them up mentally is first and foremost. Her rides, if I were to get on her right now, she would be very light and responsive to me because she's mentally ready. She's mentally ready. She's in tune with me. So when I get on her and I'm riding her off of a feel and I do this with my hip and just kind of open this leg up, she's going to side pass. Or if I just move my leg back like this and kind of close this side, she's going to turn her haunches. If I just kind of pick up the reins a little bit, move my leg forward and open this shoulder, she's going to move her shoulders over. She's mentally in tune and ready, and I'm not going to have to be on her face. I'm not going to have to hold on to her for any of it or correct her because she's too hot and worked up and anticipating too much. She's going to be ready that when I get on, I'm going to get on her. She's going to be calm mentally, and I'm going to be able to do, all right, let's do this. And she's going to go, okay, I'm waiting for your cue, your signal. What do we need to do next? And she's going to be light and responsive about it. And her body's going to be a lot more loose and a lot more ready as well. She may need a little trotting out or loping around to physically warm her up more. But warming a horse up mentally is just as important, if not more important, than warming them up physically. Making sure that a horse is in the correct mental state to go out and do the job that you're about to do is more important, because you can go and get on them after you warm them up, after you spend a couple minutes making sure they're mentally in check and with you. You could go out and do any job really easily without a fight or without anything. Here she's yawning, she's licking, she's chewing. If I got on her right now, we would have a fantastic ride. And I have not ridden her in 3 months, and it's springtime. She's on alfalfa hay, and I would have no doubt that I could get on this horse and she would be just as light and responsive and just as good as she was as the day I stopped riding her when I was 7-8 months pregnant. I would have no doubt in my mind that even though that this horse is very hot, very antsy, and just gets physically bound up really quickly, that she would never try to buck me off. She'd never rear up. She'd never spook at something and bolt sideways. She'd never bolt straight forward. She'd never do anything that would put me in trouble, because I know that, for one, I've trained this horse well from the beginning. 2, this horse is mentally ready. She's mentally warmed up. And 3, She's in tune with me. She's ready for me to ask her what to do. And she's not going to be doing it all tight and bound up physically while doing it.